On today's show, Game 1 of the NBA Finals is tonight. I got reasons why the Celtics will win, and maybe more reasons why the Warriors will win. Plus, we'll play our favorite game, Count It Up, on today's Locked On NBA. Let's go.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome. You're Locked On to the NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where the best way to help us grow is to comment below. Who you got? Who you got in Game 1 and by how many points? Let us know in the comment section below. You got Warriors by 10. You got Celtics by 5. Let us know in the comment section. Amazing selection, reliable low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com. Tell them that Locked On sent you. And joining me, as always, on a Thursday, host of Locked On Bulls. What you got for me, Pat the Designer?
The finals are here.
Oh.
But basketball's almost over.
It's almost over, but then the WNBA carries us to like Summer League, and then Summer League is like carries us, and then I guess you got like the basketball tournament or whatever they do in like
I know, right?
After that, and it's like there's basketball at some level. Playing.
It's not the same.
We have got a bunch of reasons why the Warriors will win and the Celtics will win today. And then we'll do Count It Up. We got our favorite segment every week where we will go through Zach LaVine's free agency, Quin Snyder maybe not coming back to the Jazz, the Nets pushing back a first-round pick this year, weird thing that happened today that we'll talk about, and then a couple maybe on the actual finals. But let's get into it. Game 1 of the NBA Finals starts tonight if you're listening, watching this on Thursday. And the Warriors are the favorite. The Warriors have home court advantage. The Warriors will be a little healthier. The Warriors will be a little more rested. There's a lot of reasons to pick the Warriors, and I've got even more reasons than that to pick the Warriors.
Yeah.
And let's just start with this. This Warriors offense is coming together. This Warriors offense, during the regular season, we saw 11 minutes of Curry, Klay, and Draymond playing together. This is just, you can't even look at some of the regular season numbers for this Warriors team because they're just so incredibly different than they were in the regular season.
Yeah, and the interesting thing for me with looking at this team and how these guys match up is the same thing we've been talking about all season, right? Like, there's been games we haven't talked about, wow, Steph Curry's the X factor. Klay Thompson's the X factor. There's been games we've gone into and we're like, if Andrew Wiggins balls out tonight, it's over. Like, think about what we're saying. If they go into here and they can't contain Jordan Poole, this is over. That's how deep this goes. We're talking about 4 to 5 guys on this team. I'll include 5 in case Draymond has some out-of-body experience that can all score 30 points per game. Oh, by the way, they all play team defense on a string. I love this Warriors team going into the finals just based on the fact that I like watching good basketball happen, and you're literally watching. Like, I think this is the first time in a while where it's like, this team's great, and then they're going to pass it on to the next team to continue to be great for the next 10 years. That's how this NBA Finals feels, and I just feel like there's a lot of firepower on this Warriors team offensively and defensively that it's going to make it hard for Boston to come out ahead.
The Warriors in the regular season, I just got done saying you can't look at the regular season numbers, but they were the 17th best offense. And so going into even the Mavs-Warriors series that I was covering, I was saying, I don't know, I think this Mavericks defense can slow down this Warriors offense. Well, guess what? This is not the Warriors offense that we've seen in the regular season, and even up till now. They're the number one offense in the playoffs right now, 117.8 points per 100 possessions. That is an incredible offense. Like, that is an incredible offense to be going against defenses like the Grizzlies and the Mavericks the last 2 rounds. Yeah. It's been incredible to watch them, just rip these teams apart, basically. And Boston's offense is just not the same thing, right? Boston's offense is actually down a point per 100 possessions since going into the playoffs. They're the 8th best offense in the playoffs. So Boston will have to rely on their defense, and we'll get to them when we talk about reasons why the Celtics could win this series. But the Warriors will win the series if their offense keeps humming the way that it has been. And this takes me to my second one here. The Warriors will win the series because Steph Curry can outplay Jayson Tatum. And if Steph Curry outplays Jayson Tatum, which he absolutely can, then all of a sudden it comes down to, okay, well, Curry's outplaying Tatum, and then all of a sudden you just have to have Poole and Klay outplay Brown and Smart. Even throw Wiggins in there. Klay, Poole, and Wiggins outscore and outplay Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart. There's just more options, like you were saying. There's more options on this Warriors team, more guys that can step up and give you 20 on any given basis. And so even if Tatum outscores or outplays Steph Curry in a game, like Curry and those other three guys, there are so many more options on that team than what the Celtics have. The Celtics are so reliant on Tatum and Brown having really, really good games that if one of them falters or one of them gets held back for whatever reason in this, then, you know, their margin for error is a lot smaller. The Warriors' margin for error is really big when they have all four of those guys, and if they can all keep playing, and I don't know if the Celtics can play any of those guys off the table, because Luka Doncic couldn't play any of those guys off the table. And if Luka can't play any of those four guys off the table because of the way the Warriors defend, then I don't know if anybody can, honestly. Right? Like he's the best guy in the NBA at playing guys off the floor, and he couldn't play any of those four guys off the floor for the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, and you think about it, right? Like, you got to understand, like, I understand people are saying, like, oh, Tatum's going to come in. Wiggins isn't going to be able to defend Tatum the same way that he was able to defend Luka.
Just to throw that.
listen, just throw a little scary stat at you about Luka. There's only one guy in NBA history that's above him in playoff scoring. His name is Michael Jordan. He basically built that symbol back there. Yeah, and he's 1 point better. There you go. Yeah, I'm saying there you go, right there. Yeah, I mean, he's 1 point better. And Luka struggled in moments in those games. It's not about struggling an entire game. It's about making them struggle in a moment. And I absolutely believe the Golden State Warriors can do that defensively. We saw Boston go out there against Miami and have halves where they struggled to score the ball. And yeah, Miami, I would say, is a better defensive team. But the thing is, the Warriors don't have to be as good of a defensive team because if they stop you for 2 possessions, you can be down 9. That's the biggest difference with this Warriors team. And so I feel pretty confident here going into game 1 with seeing what the Warriors are. You've got Curry coming in looking like he's just it's like seeing a shark when there's blood in the water. That's what it looks like seeing Steph, Dre, and Klay right now. It's like, hey, we've been here before. I know what this smells like.
Hey, we can get another one of these. We can get another one of these, right? Like the Warriors had the Warriors moniker or like slogan for the longest time was what? It was strength in numbers. That was their whole thing. And this team actually embodies that more than they did in the past. Like even in the KD days or even before the KD days. Like this team has numbers, and I'll get to their depth here in just a second. But the other thing, that their new playoff slogan and moniker is gold-blooded. And that's plastered all over the place. I got to go and travel to San Francisco for games 1 and 2 of the Maverick series, and it's just plastered everywhere. Gold-blooded. It's like they have this like ethereal liquid that like flies through on all their screens and stuff. It looks like the ether.
It's the Terminator.
It looks like the ether from Thor: The Dark World that like got into Natalie Portman's bloodstream, and it was like one of the Infinity Stones. But it's going all over the place. But it's really true, right? Like they had the strength in numbers. That was so true about their team, and now this gold-blooded. This team knows how to win. They've been there before. Their experience, I think, is something I'm going to get to in a second, is huge. Their experience in this is what you're alluding to. They know how to get there. They've been there before. And this Celtics team has their own experience. They've been to what? This is the Tatum Celtics 4th Eastern Conference Finals that they just went to. Yeah. And now this is their first finals that they've been to. It's a new stage. This Warriors team has been there, like they live there.
It's a whole new stage, and the thing that you have to think about as well, right? The things that you didn't have to worry about in previous series and just about every series here, because I think Brooklyn was maybe the one series where you felt that you didn't have to look back versus most of the teams you played. Once you got Milwaukee down 20, Milwaukee was going to have a tough time coming back because they were down 20 because they didn't have enough firepower. It was Giannis trying to dunk on everybody. What they do. When Miami was down 20, I told you guys last week on Locked On NBA, I was cutting the TV off. If Miami's down 17 plus, okay, they're not coming back. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Jimmy Butler kind of proved us wrong in those last couple of games. But I mean,
everybody.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, I did pick him to win. I did pick him to win game 6. You know, I wanted it. It's on record. But he proved a lot of people wrong, I think, going into that. But you can't this and you can attest to this. This Warriors team was down 19 twice in one game. Twice in one game. And they came back within 5 twice and then took the lead the second time. You cannot count on them to stay out of the game. You will be looking behind your back the entire time. And if Tatum and Brown are not playing in simpatico the entire 48 minutes, this could get scary for them.
I just want to know. So right before you said that, you were pointing you were pointing off camera at the audience, and then when you said you can attest to this, you pointed at the camera at me.
Yeah, clean at you.
If you're watching this on YouTube,
you don't know. I've got a live studio audience over here. It's like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I got to get like
the live studio audience.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That was pretty good, dog. You should sell your voice out for tapes, bro. That was pretty good.
All right, coming up, let's get into. I got a couple more reasons why the Warriors will win, and then we'll get into why the Celtics will win this series, because there are real legitimate reasons for this Celtics team to win. The defense is a huge one, and is this team more tested than this Warriors team? Talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to keep all the parts that you need. How? How could they do that? How, Sway? How could they keep all the parts that you need for your car? There's just so many parts. There's so many cars. So many different makes and models. And Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are also reliably low and the same for every single customer. They don't have like different tiered prices and things like that. You don't have to worry about it. The price you see is the price everybody's getting. They have you covered with brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today. Their drop-down menus will just show you, hey, you got a 2019 Kia Niro like I do. They have parts for you. They have carpet for you. Carpet is something you can replace even if you don't know anything about cars like me. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On. And they're, how did you hear about us box? So they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. It's rockauto.com. All right, Pat, thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Make your second listen today. Locked On NBA Big Board. It's an incredible podcast about the draft. And also, we're putting together a survey so we can learn more about listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcast even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you like and what you don't like about Locked On Podcasts. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey right now to get started. It won't take very long, and everybody that completes the survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. So you could be going to a game. Maybe not the Warriors game. We'll talk about the ticket prices and count it up, but you can get a survey. So it's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. All right, Pat, couple more reasons why the Warriors will win. You brought this up. I brought this up. It's impossible not to talk about this Warriors team without talking about their depth, because this Warriors team is both healthy. They're more healthy and they're more depthy than the Boston Celtics are. Gary Payton II, Otto Porter, and Andre Iguodala. He's looking up in the dictionary. Depthy is a word.
I like it.
More health and more depth. But Gary Payton II, Otto Porter, and Andre Iguodala are all questionable, not doubtful, questionable for game 1. So if those guys come back, plus I mentioned the Warriors are on 6 days rest, Celtics are only on 3 days rest. The Warriors' health and depth is going to matter a ton. Also, the Warriors played 5-game series, a 6-game series, and a 5-game series to get here. The Celtics played the 4-game series against the Nets, and then they played 2 7-game series to get here. Like, that takes a toll to play 2 7-game series like that. I think the 6-game series and the 7-game series that the Mavericks played wore them down so much, and then all of a sudden they started to play that Warriors team, and they said, oh my gosh, this is just a different level, because they may not play like the fastest pace in the NBA, but they play the fastest tempo in the NBA, where they're in the half court throwing passes back and forth and flying around. And I think that depth and their health is going to matter a ton in this series.
No, 100%. And it's not a regular, like, I think the difference even in the Mavs playing a 6 and a 7 versus what Boston has done is it's not a regular 6 and a 7, right? Like, no. Boston was the aggressor when you think back to that Brooklyn series. That's why Brooklyn had no chance. They were beating Kevin Durant up as he came across. The defense was phenomenal. They literally were like, hey, it's whatever you want to be. Take whatever shot you want. Right? You try that against Giannis, guess what? Ime Udoka's like, all right, let's go back to the drawing board, because that's a very different kind of guy you're defending. You defended him like that for 7 games. You're a little tired. Then you go up against one of the most physical teams in the NBA in the Miami Heat for 7 games. You're kind of tired. These guys are coming in here beaten and battered. Not to say that they still won't be able to compete, but it's just a different level, right? Like, I mean, Rudy Gobert, okay. Yeah, he's not going to get too physical with you. He's going to talk about getting physical with you, and then somebody's going to like, all right, Rudy, go back to bed. So, like, it's just a different level of physicality. And the thing with the Warriors is, right, it's like you said, with that depth, they get Gary Payton Jr. back. That's an added piece on defense that you didn't think was going to be out there running around, standing in front of possibly Jaylen Brown, and adding that depth defensively, either to the starting lineup or to the bench. Either way, right? We've seen both work with him. And the thing is, right, both of these, every piece on this team has been in an important role at some point this season. Now, granted, the NBA Finals is much different, but in an important role at some point in this season because of Steph Curry missing time, Draymond Green missing time, right? So Jordan Poole's been in the starting lineup and had to put up big numbers. Gary Payton's been in the starting lineup and had to defend the best in the NBA. Yep. So I think that it's not just depth, but it's depth that got the experience, right? Like, depth for a guy that's sitting on the bench all the time, that's great. He's still a bench piece. He might not be ready to slide in and play 15 minutes straight. You know what I'm saying? Everybody on this team, we're talking 10, 11 deep, is ready to get into the game and really give you some. And oh, by the way, is Kuminga actually a factor now? Every time he gets in the game, he's a problem.
They played Kuminga and Moody against the Mavericks at key moments in this. Now, some of it felt like Steve Kerr just like laughing in the face of the Mavericks and saying like, "All right, let's get Kuminga. What's the record for a rookie in conference finals?" And he's like, "Okay, well, let's try to get the record for Kuminga," and he eventually got it. But to your point, the Warriors play like 14 guys. They can play 14 guys, like Curry, Klay, Wiggins, Draymond, Poole, Otto Porter, Looney, Gary Payton, Bielitsa, and then they have like Kuminga, Moody, Damian Lee, and Juan Toscano-Anderson. Like those are all like decently playable guys. Now those last 4 guys are less so for sure, but you look at the Celtics roster and they've played basically 9 guys. They've played Tatum, Brown, Horford, Smart, Grant Williams, Derek White, Robert Williams, Peyton Pritchard, Tice a little bit, and then like Naismith is the next guy. Like they haven't played some of these guys as much as the Warriors have been able to play their guys. And then you look at their injury report. Robert Williams and Marcus Smart both questionable for this game. Their questionable is like hurts worse, I think, than the Gary Payton, Otto Porter questionable on the injury report for the Warriors. And so that's going to be huge. I mentioned experience earlier. Experience is the biggest reason why this Warriors team will win. Steve Kerr coach teams are 20-1 in this series when the team wins game 1. That's a massive stat. Game 1 is going to be huge. Do you know the only one that they lost when they won game 1?
The only one that they
only
lost
series that this team has lost when they won game 1.
Toronto.
It was a 2016. I think it was 2016 finals. It could have been Toronto though.
No, Toronto was 2018. 2016 would have been the Cavs then.
It was the Cavs, yeah. Also, only 3 times in the last 10 seasons can a team say that they have beaten Curry, Green, and Thompson in a 7-game series when those 3 guys are healthy. 3 times. You ready for the 3 times? 2013 Spurs, 2014 Clippers, and the 2016 NBA Finals that I just mentioned. And in that, Curry even had a sprained knee, and Draymond Green is suspended for Game 5. So at full strength, and I laughed at Cyrus when he said this on our crossover before the Mavs series, at full strength, this group has never lost. Never lost. And they still have never lost. Like, we're going to see that commercial with LaMelo Ball at the AT&T store and just and see LeVar Ball like slide through the window and be like, never lost. That's my boy. That's my boy. I feel like Joe Lacob or Bob Myers are going to be doing that to this Warriors team because I think that they're just a lot better. But let's start getting into reasons the Celtics can win. We've gone through enough. We talked enough about this Warriors team, but the Celtics will win based on their defense, right?
We're gonna have to break this up because Boston fans are gonna be like, "Oh God, they just gushed over the Warriors for 20 minutes."
I think they're better.
I agree with you, but you know how it is when you talk about Boston after on a Locked On NBA episode.
Sorry, John Corrales. They talked all about Boston yesterday with John Corrales. Go listen to that episode again if you want that.
Let's do it, man. No, I agree. The Celtics defense is going to be key. The other thing that's going to be key is them being able to attack inside.
Huge.
Because I'll tell you this, Time Lord's a problem. I don't care what anybody said. When he's on the floor, his impact is felt. And when he's off the floor, it seems like they become more of a much more perimeter team. And those are the games where we kind of look at where we're like, they're kind of shooting the ball well. They're kind of attacking a little bit well, but it's not what we saw when Robert Williams is in the game. And so I think that he's going to be such a key. Like you said, him not being there hurts.
Yeah.
If he's a game time decision and that game time decision is he can't go, that's going to, I think that could be something that not seals their fate, but absolutely sets you down a path of an uphill battle. Because when you're running out there with Al Horford and Time Lord, that's a big team.
It's huge. They have so many options. And coming up, I'm going to tell you why the Celtics will win. I have a couple more reasons for the Celtics, and then we'll play a little bit of Count It Up with Zach LaVine, Quin Snyder, and all that. So we'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about BetOnline. It's the best place to check out the odds and lines and spreads and everything in sports. NBA Finals, Game 1. Golden State Warriors, 3.5 point favorite at home. That is the spread for the series. The Warriors are still minus 145. Celtics are plus 125. So if you want to win some money and you're feeling the Celtics, if you're disagreeing with everything I've said so far about the Warriors and want to put some money down on the Celtics, this is the time because they're not favored right now at all. There's also all kinds of series props for the finals as well. They have like Al Horford's points per game. They have Draymond Green. Oh, this is a great one. Draymond Green will be ejected from any game in the series. No is minus 3,500. Yes is plus 900. So if you feel like he's going to be ejected in any game, I would put some money down on that. Those are some odds for you right there, especially playing against like Marcus Smart and like, you know, some of these Celtics guys. I think this could be a heated series at a certain point. So all kinds of stuff like that on BetOnline. Go check it out. Find out all the trends on your mobile device or on desktop. Check it out. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Pat, I got a couple more reasons why the Celtics will win, and then we'll play some Count It Up. The Celtics defense, this is their big thing. The defense is the big reason why they'll win. And you mentioned it earlier, they're bigs. Their bigs pose a problem they have not had to face, except that the Warriors have not had to face, except for the Grizzlies series. And the Grizzlies series is when they actually struggled, is against those big men. So Robert Williams, if he's at full strength or at least pretty much close to it, and Al Horford are going to pose some big problems for the Warriors. The Mavs had nothing to offer there. The Nuggets with like Jokic, and that's kind of it. That wasn't really something that they were going to struggle with, at least, you know, defensively. Yeah. And the Celtics with those bigs also have other answers. They have answers for everything that the Warriors can throw at them, at least on paper. Steph Curry, when defended by Marcus Smart in the last 5 seasons, scores 30 points in 6 games. Not 30 points a game, 30 points in 6 games. 37% shooting, 30% from 3 assists, and 7 turnovers. That's Marcus Smart. Now, how much is Marcus Smart going to be hampered or held back by the leg injuries, the ankle injuries, all that kind of stuff? That's a big question. But the answer to have Smart on Curry, to have Tatum, Brown, and Grant Williams on Klay, Poole, and Wiggins, like that's a pretty good matchup, like mano a mano. Yeah. The Celtics defense has a lot of answers for the Warriors.
The Celtics defense has answers for the Warriors, but it's about how many of those answers can consistently show up, right? Like there's answers on the Celtics team. Listen, when they're all healthy, for sure, Time Lord, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, when they're all good to go, there's a reason they're in the NBA Finals. There's a reason that this team, I mean, you look at just when, and we didn't see a lot of it at the same time, which I think is the reason that the last series went 7. But when Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum were playing well at the same time, they look like the most unstoppable team in basketball. Yep. They really do. Like
they're the best team in basketball since January.
And it adds to like the same things that we said about the Warriors, right? Turning defense into offense. When those two were on the same thing, and you throw Time Lord, you throw Al Horford in there, when they were able to run the floor, get the ball off a good turnover, run the floor. You got Pritchard out on the wing. You've got Brown out on the wing. You've got Tatum cutting down. There's too many options in that situation. The problem that I think we've seen heading into this is that there's been a lot of times where people have been able to negate those options with just being able to get back and Jaylen Brown not being able to hold on to the ball as well. We saw him having a lot of turnover issues in that last series, a lot of that in transition.
The Warriors eat those. They eat those for breakfast. Like any of those turnovers that turn into live ball, that's death.
You can't make those mistakes here. This is the one team, like you've played every team that you can make those mistakes against. You've played like Brooklyn. Just Steph Curry was hurt. They didn't have enough answers for which is
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. It was the Giannis show, and they were literally like, "Go ahead, get your 60. Nobody else is going to play great," which is awesome. Great
or
defense.
Hit threes,
or hit threes, which is
nobody did,
which is awesome. You know what I'm saying? Go great defensive plan. And against Miami, they just didn't have the firepower. This team has everything that you've been able to take advantage of and more when you're talking about this Warriors team. And so I think that's for Boston to win this series, these boys got to have the series of their life. But if they're playing great at the same time, they absolutely can take this thing.
To your point, the guys that the Celtics went through, I think the Celtics team is more battle tested through this year's playoffs than last year, right? Like this iteration of the team. Obviously, the trio of Steph, Klay, and Draymond are more battle tested overall than than the rest of the Warriors and even the Celtics. But these iterations of these teams, Boston went through Durant, Giannis, and then Jimmy Butler with the Heat. Like that's tested right there. The Warriors went through Jokic, who didn't have any a starting five basically at all.
Yeah.
Ja Morant, who missed a bunch of games, and then Luka, which is a good test. But that Mavericks, I don't know if that Mavericks team is like the biggest test. It should have been the Suns, but the Suns just got destroyed by the Mavs in Game 7.
Take the wins you can get, baby.
But
Game 2 was great for me.
You look at the difference between those teams. The Warriors played teams that had one guy, like one option, right?
Yeah.
And the Celtics will win the series if Jaylen Brown proves to be a better second option and a better release valve than these are the second options that the Warriors have had to face. Jalen Brunson, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Monte Morris or Aaron Gordon, right? Like those are the second options that they've had to face. And Jaylen Brown is the best by far of those. And if he is the best, then turns out to be more of a problem because this Warriors defense has looked really good during this playoffs. But they haven't had to play these elite offenses necessarily. They've played elite players, but they have not played elite offenses in general. And if Jaylen Brown can be better than those three guys, then that's a much tougher task for this Warriors defense. And then maybe it breaks down more than what we've seen in the last 3 rounds.
I think it's just a moment a moment for them to play team ball, right? Like when they're moving the ball around and they're coming up, and maybe that is right. That's where Marcus Smart is key, I believe, coming into this, right? Like because he kind of gets the ball movement going for this team. He gets the ball swinging around, and they find the better shot when he's on the floor. So it could be huge if he's not able to go in game 1, and we'll see kind of what the decision is on that. But I think the biggest thing is right, like. Jaylen Brown needs that guy in Marcus Smart or in Jayson Tatum who can be like, let's just calm down. We're moving a little quick. We're losing the ball. We're fumbling the ball. If he's just calm this series, because everything else he does is great. 10 rebounds a game, 8 rebounds a game, 9 rebounds a game. He's a great number 2. Like you say, he's the best in this series. Everything else he does is great. It's just those moments where if he's turning the ball over like he did in that last series, it absolutely could be a killer for you.
Oh, absolutely. So game 1 starts tonight. We'll have you covered on Locked On NBA, Locked On Celtics, Locked On Warriors. Great options as well to go check out those. Make sure you're checking out those every day. All right, let's play our favorite game every single week.
Count it up, count it up, count it up, count it.
Where we count up the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. This one, maybe not so much fun for you, but Zach LaVine of the Chicago Bulls is currently testing his options around the league. He's facing free agency. Now,
count it up.
How much money is Zach LaVine going to leave on the table if he took one of those non-Bulls options? Pat, host of Locked On Bulls.
About 57 million. So prepare to see Zach LaVine in a Bulls jersey next season. You know?
Okay, let's do a bonus. Bonus counted up. What's the confidence meter? Confidence meter 1 to 100 that Zach LaVine will come back.
Say about I'd say about a 90.
90%.
About a 90. I'm confident that Zach's going to come back because from everything that I've heard about Zach LaVine, Zach wants to be the man. Anywhere else, any other team he's going to go to, he's not going to be the man. He's not going to be the man for a while. If he goes to LA, eventually he could be the man. Dallas, he'll never be the man. Luke is younger than he is, right? Like the teams that we're talking about, like you're going there to play second fiddle and make less money. So I think that this is he wants to be in Chicago, and they built this team for him, and people wanted to come play with him. It'd be weird for him to just be like, hey, thanks, guys, for coming to the city and helping me get to the first round. I'm out of here.
You're telling me the Mountain Dew money is not making up the difference between what he could make with the Supermax or what he could make on a different team if he signed?
I mean, or you could make 212 and the Mountain Dew money. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, it's not like he's losing the Mountain Dew money.
The Utah Jazz coach Quin Snyder is not definite to return to the Jazz, according to an ESPN report that told us nothing.
Right, I know, right?
This week. But
Count it up.
if you were Quin Snyder, would you want to return? Would you want to run it back with this Jazz team?
No, because I don't think that they're going to move on from one of the two pieces in Rudy and Donovan. I think if they were going to, we would hear a ton of chatter by now. I know that free agency hasn't technically started, but hey, Zach LaVine's been on every team in the NBA at this point. And I wouldn't want to run it back with that dynamic again, because you're dealing with what it seems to, from the outside looking in, personal issues that are causing you to lose games because, hey, when we pass Rudy the ball 10 times, he puts up 25 points, 17 rebounds, and 6 blocks. So the next game, we're going to get him 2 shots. There's something personal going on there. I wouldn't want to be a part of that. I wouldn't want to coach a part of that. And I think that this is going to be his best opportunity where he could go to another team and be like, did you see that mess that I got through over there? Yeah, you want me coaching your team.
This is easy for me. He has to live in Utah. All respect to David Locke, our boss host of Locked On Jazz and the radio voice of the Utah Jazz. But if Quin Snyder had another opportunity to go somewhere else, this Jazz team, now living in Utah is one of the worst, but it has structural issues as well. Like you just said, the interpersonal stuff, the structural issues of the roster, like this roster probably hit its peak. And so if he could go somewhere else that has better peak, maybe he's waiting out Pop. That's what a lot of people are trying to talk about. Maybe he's waiting out Pop. So that's an interesting one. But yeah, Quin Snyder, should he come back to the Jazz? It's a big question. The Brooklyn Nets made a decision today. They had the option in the Ben Simmons, James Harden trade to keep the Sixers 2022, so this year's draft pick, which was the 23rd pick. They could keep that pick this year, or they could defer it and push it back to next year. So
Count it up.
Count it up. Would you rather have the 23rd pick this year or no pick this year, but you get their pick, the Sixers pick next year, and your own pick next year? So the Nets now have no pick in this draft, but they will have 2 picks next year. Which one would you rather have? Basically a pick in each, or none in this one and 2 in the next one. And it could be a higher pick next year with the Sixers. Who knows? I
would probably rather have next year's pick, because this year's pick is this year's draft to me is very deep, but full of role players, right? Like, yeah, that's something that the Sixers might want, but you're talking about a team that could be moving on from Kyrie, or I'm sorry, that the Brooklyn might want. We're talking about a team that could be moving on from Kyrie, trying to figure out what they're actually going to be able to do with Kevin Durant, right? Like, we could be talking about Brooklyn rebuilding in a year where you're going to need 2 picks because it's going to be like, Kevin Durant doesn't want to be here anymore because we didn't put anybody around him. His next best option is Seth Curry. You know what I'm saying? So I like the move to defer. I'd rather have next year's pick, and hopefully, I'll tell you this. I mean, James Harden's going to make a whole lot of money to probably bring the Sixers the other direction. I don't see that team moving forward.
And how about this? You're one Joel Embiid injury away from that pick not being the 23rd pick, but maybe like the 3rd pick.
Yeah. Dark way to look at it, but yeah, let's go with that.
Or even the 13th pick. Let's say he misses like 50, 60 games or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the 13th pick next year. Not super out of the question. So an interesting one to look at. That's the Nets are dealing with. There you go. Game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight. Go check out Locked On Celtics, Locked On Warriors. They're going to have you covered all week with all that. Also, Locked On Mavs still doing offseason stuff. We're talking about bigs. We're talking about the draft the next 2 days. Locked On Bulls, what are you guys doing over there?
We're still doing some draft breakdown. We're going to get ready to, just keep talking about where Zach LaVine ends up. You know what I'm saying? Like he's in a new city every day. Also, we got Bulls actually working out some people that we care about because they kept working out second round picks that were basically not going to get drafted.
So there you go. Check it out on Locked On Mavs, Locked On Bulls. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA. Boom.